Hello everyone and welcome to the worst books of 2017, part 1. There'll be more parts. I hated more books than this. I'm just going to get straight into it. I read a lot of books this year, so inevitably I hated quite a lot of them. Colleen Hoover's Slam. Let's start with this one because it's going to be no shock for you. I've done a whole rant video review of this book down below where I said what bits I hated in it. I backed it up with evidence as to why I hated those bits. So this book is nothing what it says on the back. On the back it says it's about a girl who she's dealing with the death of her dad and she's a rock for her mum and brother. She has to move somewhere new because they can't afford her house anymore, and she finds slam poetry and she has a bit of a romance with someone, but it doesn't work out and she finds a love for slam poetry. Not what it's about, Colleen, is it? What it's about is about a girl who moves into a house, instantly sees the guy, that's it, she's in love straight away, one of them. And why is he interested in slam poetry? It's intriguing passion for slams and slam poetry. Oh, let's see. So they're in love, they're dating, and then she starts school, high school, walks into her English class. Oh dear, the boy she's dating is a fully grown man who's an English teacher. He likes slam poetry because he bloody teaches it. New girl moves in across the road from you. You're a teacher at the local school. Do you think maybe you should ask her what you're doing with it? Have you got a job? You going to school? What are you doing? No. Just date her, just sleep with her. That's fine. Whatever. He was manipulative throughout the whole entire book. I hated it. I really did. I think it was a terrible book. Also, it was nothing to do with her relationship with her mum because she just went out with this controlling, manipulative beast of a man and then just left her mum and brother, really. Didn't have any interaction with them. Hated slam. Will never read another Colleen Hoover. Just thought it was absolutely horrific. So if you want my rant review, I'll put it down below because it was bloody awful, that book. Next up, Helen Sloane's Diary by Jeff Lucas, about a woman. Let me tell you what the back says. The back says it's about a woman who's a social worker and it's about her relationship with one of the kids who she social works for and how that is. And she's also a Christian woman. What it's really about is a diary of a woman every day saying, I'm in love with this man. Oh no, this one. Oh no, back to the first one. Oh, the second one. Flip-flopping over these two guys she loved. You never meet the girl. I think it's one scene you meet the girl in she's a social worker for. You don't find anything about the girl. The girl runs away in one bit and she's like, oh, she's just a bad girl, isn't she? I'm sure if you're a social worker, you don't just go, oh, that kid's just born bad, aren't they? Another thing I hated about it is she always needed men to do everything for her, like move a table. She was like, Dad, I'm gonna need your help. They do a youth club and she's a social worker, no one else is in the room, and a fight breaks out and one of the men breaks up the fight. You think as a social worker you'd say, hey, don't put your hands on that child. I'm a social worker, I'll deal with it. But she was just there like, oh my God, my prince. Ugh, throughout the whole book. It was very heavy on her relationship with God, but then she kept saying, I believe in God and this is my belief in it. And I respected that. As a non-believer, I respected what she was saying. And then she would completely mock it and be like, it's a bit crap, isn't it, to believe in God? Jesus Christ. And she'd mock Christians, but while at the same time being one. And I just thought, just have your beliefs and believe it. Stop trying to, you know, it was trying to pander to an audience of people who are maybe atheists and Christians, and it just didn't work. It was too much. I did it. So there's that one there. Let's try something other than a novel. Let's see something else. Graphic novel that I hated. Rat Queens. People love this so much. And actually on my channel, people are like, you've got to read it. You're going to love it. It's called Sass and Sorcery. That's so you. Oh my God. So when it started, I did enjoy it. So it's a group of women who, you know, they're fighting this like beast, whatever. But why I didn't like it is because they kept swearing and using such language that I found so cringy for a graphic novel. So here's the art style, which I didn't overly love the art style. And they're swearing and they're being vulgar, and it just felt to me like the author wanted to do strong female characters, and the only reason and way they thought they could do that was to make those characters vulgar, repulsive, aggressive towards everyone, and I just hated the Rat Queens. They go into a local town where they live and they keep smashing it up. So they get drunk and they smash up the town, and it's kind of like, yeah, rock and roll, whatever, and then it will be on to the next scene. And someone in the town is annoyed that they keep smashing up the person's shop and acts out revenge, and everyone's like, oh, what a terrible... I would be the villain in Rat Queens. I would be like, those little queens, I'm gonna rat them right up. I just don't understand why people like rat queens. Do you look above the kind of them being thugs and smashing up normal everyday people's shops and just get to the other story, which is okay? It didn't do it for me. I thought they were spoiled, horrible, arrogant, and didn't enjoy it at all. Next up is one that I didn't hate, but I think was absolutely pointless, and the author even says that, and this is A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Robert Louis Stevenson, I thought, what could go wrong? Poetry about childhood. This is going to be one of my best books of the year, I thought. Decorations by Eve Garnett. Beautiful illustrations that Eve's done. Absolutely stunning. So Eve, if you're watching, you won't be, but Eve, this isn't about you. Okay, you can step aside. This is just me and Robert's beef. So this is just, you know, it's on poetry, and there are a few good ones in here, but the majority of the poems are absolutely awful. They are like a child could write them. At the beginning of the book, for some bizarre reason, they have published a letter that Robert Louis Stevenson wrote to his friend about this collection, and this collection, when it was first published, had no illustrations in it, so it must have been so dry. But in his letter he says, "I'm not proud of this work. I don't care what it's called. It's not my best." I feel like the publisher missed the point, because obviously that letter shouldn't be published in this book. It's ludicrous for it to be like that. But when you go for it, you go, yeah, this is just a cash cow. This is just to make him some money, and this is the most pointless collection of my life. Maybe if you've read this as a child, you have some kind of connection to it because it'll remind you of your childhood. I just don't think it's very good poems, but I didn't hate it. It's not the worst book I've ever read. I mean, it's not slammed. Let's be honest now. It's not slammed. But, you know, it was a bit pointless to me. And last but certainly not least for the part 1 video is Desire Lines. Jack Ganto's. I've seen this a lot in libraries being promoted, being on like books about diversity, and this book gets put on them, and do not read it for diversity. It's awful. So our main character is this boy. He's at high school. It's in a very religious town, and they don't like gay people basically. He every Thursday watches 2 girls who are lesbians in his class. He watches them have sex. You might think, Hannah, do they, you know, why do they allow him to watch? No, they don't allow him to watch, guys. No, he watches them from a tree. Every Thursday, every Thursday these girls get together in a hiding spot they don't think anyone knows, and he watches them from a tree, and he says, "This is my nature program." So what happens is a religious kind of group come to his town and move in, and they want to out all the homosexuals in the town, but no one really knows of any homosexuals. So they start picking on this boy and saying, "Oh, we think you're gay, we think you know the gays, whatever." And instead of him just ignoring it and just kind of shouldering it off, he decides that he's going to tell his friends who actually the real gays are. And you might think that's very cruel to out someone. That's one of the worst things you could do, because, you know, in that kind of religious setting, one of the girls' dad is the sheriff, so it's going to go down terribly. How terrible. No, he doesn't just tell them. He doesn't sit them down and say, "Guys, these 2 girls are gay." He says, "Guys, come with me on a Thursday. Let's hide and watch them till they're naked, and then you'll know they're gay." So that happens. The boys jump out. It's absolutely horrendous. The ending is awful. I'm going to spoil this book for you. That's why I've saved it last till last. So if you don't want to be spoiled on this book, click off the video now. Pause it, leave a comment, then click off if you don't want to be spoiled. So what happens at the end of this is the 2 girls decide a suicide pact. One of them dies and the other one doesn't. The other one goes into a mental hospital, and it's tragic and awful. One who went into a mental hospital has to come and talk to the boy, so she has to come back to school. And she walks into the room and he says, no joke, get ready, "Oh, I'd almost forgotten what had happened last summer until she walked into the classroom." You killed a girl because it's his fault that girl died because he outed them. You killed a girl, another one's life is ruined and she had to go into a mental hospital, but you almost forgot what happened because life goes on. And the end is like, you know, life goes on. Oh well. At the end of the story, the boy is kind of going, you know, I outed someone. Isn't it a shame people are homophobic and can't say they're gay? That's not the problem of the book. That kind of is the problem, but it's not. It's not the bigger picture. The bigger picture is you shouldn't out people. If you know someone's gay, you shouldn't out them because you don't know how everyone else is going to react, so don't be an idiot. Anyway, that's the end of part 1. I feel like I've gone on enough. I have a lot more books. You've seen my, you know, wrap-ups this year. Every wrap-up I feel like I've had a book that I haven't liked, so I've got a few more few more to say, and I'll see you for part 2 in another video. Here is a gem from Robert Louis Stevenson's, you know, acclaimed poetry collection as this is. The world is so full of a number of things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings. That's it. That's the full poem. There are loads like that. Four lines. 4-line poems is what this book's really good for.